Marcus Brennan walked onto the set of Pale Rider, convinced he was doing Clint Eastwood a favor. 2 consecutive box office hits, a growing fan base among younger audiences. The kind of commercial appeal that could help sell a Western to people who didn't normally watch Westerns. What Brennan didn't understand was that Clint Eastwood didn't need favors, and he definitely didn't need actors who thought their recent success made them exempt from basic professionalism. It was June 1985. The Idaho Mountains. Sawtooth Range. Remote location shooting with 80 crew members, dangerous horsework, unpredictable weather, and a production schedule that left zero room for delays. Clint was directing, producing, and starring. His company, Malpaso, had built a reputation on 2 principles: efficiency and respect. Every person on set mattered. Every minute counted. Every dollar was spent wisely. When the studio suggested casting Brennan in a supporting role, Clint hesitated. The actor's reputation preceded him demands, tantrums, entitlement disguised as artistic temperament. But the studio was pushing hard. Brennan's agent promised he'd behave. Against his better judgment, Clint agreed. The problem started before cameras rolled. Brennan's agent delivered a list of requirements: top billing alongside Clint, script approval, dialogue rewrites, costume consultation. David Valdez, Clint's producer, brought the list to his office. Clint read it without expression. Tell him no. He's threatening to walk. Then he walks. We'll find someone else. The agent backed down on everything except one demand. Brennan's trailer had to match or exceed Clint's in size. Clint's response was simple: give him whatever he wants. I don't care. What Brennan failed to grasp was that Clint rarely used his trailer. He preferred being on set with the crew. The trailer was just a place to change clothes. When Brennan's massive custom trailer arrived, actually larger than Clint's modest setup, he made sure everyone noticed, parked it prominently, gave interviews about his essential workspace and his creative process. Clint said nothing, showed up early every morning, worked alongside the crew, stayed late planning the next day's shots. His work spoke for itself. But then Brennan started arriving late. First day shooting Brennan's scenes. Call time: 6 a.m. Perfect morning light for a crucial sequence. At 6 a.m., Clint and the crew were ready. Cameras positioned, extras in place. Light perfect. Brennan's trailer door stayed closed. 6:15 a.m. The first assistant director knocked. No answer. 6:30 a.m. Knocked again. 6:45 a.m. Brennan finally emerged. Sunglasses despite the early hour. Clearly hungover. I need another hour, he announced to the AD. My process requires proper preparation. I wasn't ready. The AD looked at Clint, who was standing nearby. Clint's expression didn't change. He simply nodded. We'll shoot around him. Move to scene 47. The entire crew scrambled, repositioned for a different sequence, lost the perfect morning light. 3 hours of shooting time evaporated. Different actors brought in. Equipment moved. Clint never raised his voice, never showed frustration, just adjusted and kept working. Brennan appeared at 8 a.m., still wearing sunglasses, genuinely surprised they'd started without him. He approached Clint, apparently expecting an apology for not waiting. We're on scene 47 now, Clint said calmly. You'll shoot tomorrow morning. Same call time. Don't be late. Brennan laughed, a condescending sound that carried across the set. I'm never really late, Clint. I arrive when I'm ready. That's part of my process. Great actors can't be rushed. Clint looked at him for a long moment, face unreadable. Tomorrow, 6 a.m. Be ready. Then he turned back to the camera, ending the conversation. That night, Brennan held court in his oversized trailer, drinking heavily, entertaining visitors. Several crew members reported hearing him mock Clint's directing style, calling it pedestrian and workmanlike compared to real auteurs he'd worked with. Next morning, same call time, 6 a.m. Same perfect light for the sequence they needed. At 6 a.m., Brennan's trailer was dark and quiet. 6:15 a.m. Still nothing. The first AD knocked. No response. At 6:30 a.m., Clint walked over himself. The crew watched as he knocked firmly on the door. After a long moment, Brennan opened it. Clearly drunk or still intoxicated from the night before. Bathrobe. Hair disheveled. Eyes bloodshot. "What?" Brennan said, voice slurred and aggressive. "You're late," Clint said calmly. "We're losing the light. I'm preparing." Brennan gestured vaguely, with a glass that might have contained alcohol. "You wouldn't understand. You're not really an actor anymore, are you? You're just a cowboy who points cameras." The crew, watching from a distance, went absolutely silent. Nobody spoke to Clint Eastwood like that. Not on his set. Not on his production. Not ever. Clint's expression didn't change. "You have 15 minutes to be camera ready. If you're not, we're moving on." "You'll wait for me," Brennan said, voice getting louder. "You need me. The studio wants me. I'm the only reason anyone under 40 will see this movie. You're a relic, Eastwood. You should be grateful I agreed to work on this." Clint turned and walked back to the set. The crew exchanged nervous glances, unsure what was about to happen. 15 minutes passed. Brennan's door stayed closed. At 6:45 a.m., Clint turned to his first AD. "Mark him as a no-show. Move to scene 32. They shot around Brennan for the rest of the day. Lost another crucial sequence requiring morning light. Production schedule significantly behind. Budget straining from the inefficiency. That evening, Brennan finally emerged around 4 p.m., apparently ready to shoot. He found Clint reviewing dailies with the cinematographer. "I'm ready now," Brennan announced. "Let's get my scene done." "We're wrapped for the day," Clint said without looking up from the monitor. "Then tomorrow morning, same time, your call sheet will be delivered to your trailer." Brennan seemed to sense something had shifted, but his ego wouldn't let him back down. "Good. And Clint, next time maybe you could be a little more flexible. Great performances require freedom, not factory schedules." Clint finally looked up at him. "Get some sleep, Marcus. Tomorrow's going to be a long day." Next morning, Brennan actually showed up close to on time. 6:20 a.m. instead of 6 a.m. Progress in his mind. He strutted onto set, clearly expecting praise for his improvement. What he found instead was a scene he wasn't prepared for. The entire crew, all 80 people, were assembled and watching as he approached. Clint stood in the center, arms crossed, face as expressionless as stone. "Good morning, Marcus," Clint said, voice carrying clearly in the mountain air. "Morning," Brennan said, suddenly uncertain. "Am I in the wrong spot? What scene are we shooting?" "We're not shooting anything," Clint said. "We need to have a conversation, and I wanted everyone here to hear it." Brennan glanced around at the crew, at the cameras that weren't being set up, at the strange stillness of what should have been a busy set. "You've been late twice," Clint continued, voice calm but absolutely firm. "You've been drunk or hung over on my set. You've insulted my directing, my crew, and the work we're doing here. And yesterday, you told me I should be grateful you're on this film." "I was just—" Brennan started. Clint raised a hand. "I'm not finished." The mountain was completely silent except for the wind. "You demanded a bigger trailer than me on my own production. I gave it to you. You demanded special treatment. I gave it to you. You've cost us 2 days of shooting and thousands of dollars because you can't show up on time. I accommodated that. But yesterday, you showed up drunk and insulted people who've been working since before sunrise to make you look good on film." Brennan's face had gone pale. "So here's what's going to happen," Clint said, voice still that same calm, quiet tone that somehow carried more authority than any yelling could. "Your scenes are being cut from the film. We're writing you out completely. Your contract is being terminated for breach of professional conduct. There's a car waiting at the bottom of the hill to take you back to Los Angeles. Your belongings from the trailer will be packed and shipped to your agent's office within 48 hours. He paused. "You're fired. Effective immediately." Brennan's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. He looked around desperately at the crew, perhaps expecting someone to object or defend him. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. They just watched. But Brennan finally managed. "You can't just fire me. My agent. The studio. They won't allow." "I'm the producer," Clint said. "It's my production company, my money, my film. And you're done. The car is waiting." "This is insane," Brennan said, voice rising. "Do you know who I am? Do you know what this will do to your film? You need me." "No," Clint said simply. "I need people who show up on time, sober, and treat my crew with respect. You're none of those things. The car is waiting." Brennan looked around again, desperate now. "Someone tell him he's making a mistake. Tell him he needs me." A young production assistant, a 19-year-old intern named Jenny, was standing nearby. The day before, Brennan had yelled at her for bringing him the wrong kind of coffee, reducing her to tears. Now, Clint looked directly at her. "Jenny," Clint said, "what time should everyone be on set tomorrow?" "6 a.m., Mr. Eastwood," she said quietly. "And will you be here at 6 a.m.? "Yes, sir," Jenny said, voice stronger now. "Then, you're more valuable to this production than Mr. Brennan has ever been," Clint said. He turned back to Brennan. "The car is waiting. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Brennan stood there for another long moment, perhaps waiting for someone to intervene, for this to turn out to be some kind of lesson or test. But nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The only sound was the wind and the distant rumble of the car engine waiting to take him away. Finally, Brennan turned and walked toward his trailer. 10 minutes later, he emerged with a single bag, walked past the assembled crew without making eye contact, and got into the car. Nobody watched him leave. They'd already turned back to their work, preparing for the first actual shot of the day. "All right," Clint said to his first AD. "Let's make up for lost time." Scene 32. First positions. And just like that, production resumed as if Marcus Brennan had never been there. The story spread through Hollywood within days. Brennan's agent tried spinning it as a creative disagreement, but too many crew members had been present. The truth came out. Brennan had been fired for being drunk, late, and disrespectful. The impact on his career was immediate and devastating. Studios started pulling out of projects he was attached to. Directors who'd been interested suddenly weren't returning calls. Within 6 months, Brennan went from rising star to someone who couldn't get a meeting. The unofficial blacklist wasn't because of Clint's influence. Clint never badmouthed Brennan publicly. It was because the story demonstrated something every producer and director feared. If an actor couldn't show basic professionalism on a Clint Eastwood set where expectations were clear and the environment was known to be fair, then that actor was a liability no one wanted to risk. Pale Rider went on to massive success, over $40 million on a $6.9 million budget. Critics praised it as Eastwood's best Western since Unforgiven. The scenes that would have featured Brennan were rewritten and redistributed among other actors. Nobody missed his presence. Years later, in an interview, Clint was asked about the incident. His response was characteristically brief. "Everybody on a film set has a job to do. If you can't do your job, you can't be there. It doesn't matter what your name is or what's on your resume. Show up on time, sober, and treat people with respect. That's the baseline." The story became legendary in Hollywood not because Clint had been cruel or vindictive, but because he'd done exactly what he said he would do. No drama, no second chances, just clear expectations and immediate consequences when those expectations weren't met. Today, the story is still told as an example of leadership and standards. The oversized trailer became a symbol, a reminder that trailer size and recent success mean nothing without basic professionalism. Jenny, the 19-year-old PA Clint defended, became a successful line producer. She credits that moment with teaching her what real leadership looks like. Marcus Brennan found work in smaller productions but never regained his trajectory. He tells people Clint overreacted. The crew tells a different story. They tell the story of an actor who showed up drunk, insulted harder workers, and learned the hard way that nobody is irreplaceable. Because that's what Brennan did next that ended his Hollywood career. He didn't apologize, didn't take responsibility, didn't learn. He blamed everyone else, called Clint unprofessional, called the firing political, told anyone who would listen that he'd been the victim of an ego-driven director who couldn't handle real talent. And Hollywood, which might have forgiven the initial screw-up, couldn't forgive the refusal to own it. Because in an industry built on collaboration, there's one thing that will kill your career faster than anything else: being the person nobody wants to work with. Talent without professionalism is worthless. Success without humility is temporary. And respect isn't something you demand, it's something you earn by showing up, doing the work, and treating people like they matter. Marcus Brennan learned that lesson too late. Clint Eastwood taught it in front of 80 people on a mountainside in Idaho, and Hollywood never forgot. 20 years after that morning in Idaho, a young actor asked Clint about the incident during a private conversation on another set. The actor had just landed his first major role and was nervous about meeting expectations. "What happened to that guy?" the young actor asked. "The one you fired in front of everyone?" Clint was quiet for a moment, adjusting a camera angle. "He disappeared. Not because I ended his career. Because he ended it himself." "How?" He never understood that the firing wasn't the problem. His reaction to it was. Clint turned to face the young actor. "After I let him go, he spent years telling people he was the victim. Never took responsibility. Never admitted he'd shown up drunk. Never apologized to the crew he'd insulted." The young actor nodded, understanding dawning. "Hollywood forgives mistakes," Clint continued. "Everyone makes them. But it doesn't forgive people who refuse to learn from them. That's the difference between a bad day and an ended career." He picked up his coffee, took a sip. "Show up on time. Do your job. Treat people with respect. It's not complicated, but you'd be surprised how many people can't manage it." The young actor never forgot that conversation, and he never showed up late.